Most people have no idea about Bitcoin. They have no idea about shares. They have no idea about sometimes even the property they're about to buy. But they'll go and invest in it because their neighbor's doing it, their friends are doing it. And just because your neighbor's doing it doesn't mean you should do it. When do you have a shower? And it's every day. Why? To stay clean. Why do you brush your teeth? So you don't lose your teeth. How often are you cleaning your money? You're on a first class flight and it's on Instagram? Congratulations, I'll bet you're broke. You may see people flying first class, buying Ferraris, buying Louis Vuitton, traveling here, doing this. The reality is you don't know what's going on with someone's business, their bedroom, or their bank account. So now you might be thinking to yourself, well, Lloyd, what's the point in having that extra cash? What if I want to buy a Ferrari or a Lambo? What if I like nice clothes? What if I do want to have some status? The reality is, I'm Lloyd James Ross, 7-figure investor and entrepreneur, and I've helped thousands of business owners and professionals turn financial stress into success. If you're stuck in old money habits, overwhelmed by investing, or unsure where to start, this is for you. I'll give you the mindset and strategies to take control, grow your wealth, and achieve financial freedom. It's time to make your money work for you. Look at your bank account. Look at it. The biggest problem people face when it comes to their money is they don't look at it. Where's my money going? It's going where you're sending it. It doesn't just get legs and walk away by itself. It's where you send it based on your own behavior. And so if you're wondering where your money's going, you got to look at it, which means looking at it consistently. So many people I talk to that have their money out of control is out of control because they don't consistently look at their bank statements. And I think of this when people, have a shower. I say, hey, when do you have a shower? And it's every day. Why? To stay clean. Why do you brush your teeth? So you don't lose your teeth. How often are you cleaning your money? If you had a spouse or a girlfriend or a loved one and you didn't spend time with them, what if you had a wife or a husband and you only caught up once a year for a date? Would the relationship last? No. But this is what people are doing with their money. This is the relationship they have with it. They haven't been on a date with their money for years. They're like, why is my relationship falling apart? Because you're not dating your money. Student of mine, Steve, he hadn't showered his money. He hadn't dated his money for ages. I asked him, said, when was the last time you looked at your bank account and actually went on and did an audit? He said, I can't remember. So when he came in, the first thing he did was that. The next month, he sent me a message on WhatsApp and he said, Lloyd, you wouldn't believe it. This is what I've created. I was like, what is it? I looked at it, $6,000 in the first month, just by looking at where his money was going. Imagine what you could do if you just looked at your statements every single month and shifted it. $6,000 in a month? What's that? $70,000 a year? You can save a lot of money. Another client of mine, the very first thing she did was an audit of a bank statement. And she said, you wouldn't believe it, Lloyd. I said, what is it? She said, can I tell you how much I've saved? I said, how much? She goes, in the last 90 days, I've saved $8,000. I said, how did you do that? And she said, well, I actually figured out I was going to this shop too much. I was going to that shop too much. I was spending a lot of time on Amazon apps and I just didn't realize. So a small hole will sink a big ship. And what she discovered was how to close that small hole. And now she's got a ship that's sailing smoothly. So how often should you date your money? Every single month. You've got to know where it's going. You've got to push it where it needs to go and pull it back from where you don't want it to go. It will go where you send it based on your own behavior. That's why 80% of money problems are behavioral problems. It's not really about the mathematics of money. It's pretty much grade 2 math, which is kind of like add, subtract, multiply, divide. It's very easy, but it's about our behaviors. You might be walking past a sushi train at lunchtime and you just get this feeling like, oh, I'd be so quick just to get this sushi roll. Bang, you've lost $15. Like that, money management's done in moments, okay? So the most important thing you got to do is look at your bank account consistently. Start today doing that. The other advice I have is invest in what you know, meaning this. Most people are putting their money in stuff they don't have any idea about. They're like, oh, should I buy this? Should I invest in that? I'm like, well, what do you know about it? Not much? Then don't. Investing has to be rational. So don't invest in what you don't know. And most people have no idea about Bitcoin. They have no idea about shares. They have no idea about sometimes even the property they're about to buy. But they'll go and invest in it because their neighbor's doing it, their friends are doing it. And just because your neighbor's doing it doesn't mean you should do it, right? Just because people start trading feces doesn't mean you start trading feces. You've got to understand what you're doing. And how does that happen? Well, you got to start investing in your education, right? Education comes before acquisition. Most people are using their money to play status games. And status games are where you deploy your money into your clothes, your car, your holidays, your Instagram account to show people that you're rich instead of actually being rich. All right, so you posted you're on a first class flight and it's on Instagram. Congratulations, I'll bet you're broke. I bet that's the first time you've done it and you showcase on Instagram, I'm on a first class flight. Great, good for you. That's a status game because you're showing people that you're playing a status game. Right? Charlie Munger, who's Warren Buffett's former business partner, multi-billionaire, flew coach, flew economy, because he knew it's a slippery slope. The moment you turn left, you've always got to turn left. Especially when you show people you turn left on the airplane, means you've got to continue to do it. And if you're broke and you do it once, you're in trouble. Most people waste money looking rich, when the reality is they need to become rich. How do you do that? You actually underspend your income. You actually put it into assets. You actually put it into your own skill set. And you don't want to show off to people that you are looking rich, you just want to be rich. And how I learned not to play status games was when I was younger, I was in my early 20s, I had this incredible opportunity, this job in the Middle East. And I was building the Formula One circuit for the inaugural Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi. And my HR manager at the time, he was an English guy. And he used to call me Rosser. And I was very influential at the time. He said, Rosser, you're making some good money now. You got to level up your apartment and buy a nice car. That's my best accent. And I said, all right, so I'm influenced by this manager. And at the time in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, there was a lot of that going around. There's a lot of wealth, a lot of money in that place. And so being influenced, I was like, great, I've got to upgrade my apartment. So I went and got an apartment in Abu Dhabi. And in Abu Dhabi in those days, you couldn't room share your apartment, even with a guy. It was against the rules. So I couldn't even lease out my second bedroom. So I had this massive apartment on the niche. I couldn't afford it. It was taking up 50% of my wage. And I was like, oh, I've fallen into the status game trap. Straight away, I was influenced by someone else. I made the decision and immediately regretted it because I saw all the money just leaking out of my account. For what purpose? To say that I lived in a nice place? There was no way I would have had enough money to actually save up to resign from that job and build a massive career elsewhere if I kept playing the status game. So be careful of the status games you're playing and be careful of the people around you, because once you make the decision to play status games and you build an identity around that particular game, it is very difficult to wind that back and actually start playing wealth games. Because once you have that identity, everyone thinks you have to be rich all the time. And if you've got to play that game and keep stepping up to the plate and you don't have the money, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. You're going to be living a lie. You're going to be living a life that's actually not yours, which is why I've always delayed the gratification of those things, because I'm so much more involved in making sure I've got free time. I can spend time with people I love. I can do the things I want to do. They're wealth games. They're the things I want to do. That's the games I want to play with the people I want to play them with. And when you start playing status games, you fall into the trap of playing games with people you don't like, doing things you don't want to do, and having to sacrifice yourself for the next 50 years playing a game or working in a job or running a business that you don't even like. So just be very careful when you take that step. It's a slippery slope and it's hard to get back up the top of the hill. Just quickly, if you're ready to take control of your finances but feel stuck on where to start, I have a solution. My book, Money Buys Happiness, simplifies investing and wealth building with practical steps to help you achieve financial peace. Get your copy via the link in the show notes and let's get your money working for you. Now back to the episode. So avoid playing status games. The opposite of that is to play wealth games. Wealth games are games you can't necessarily see straight away. And so if you're seeing someone who's playing a wealth game, you may not even know. They may be driving a Toyota Camry. I remember for us personally, we had a little VW car, little black one, convertible. We bought it for cash. And for 10 years, I drove that thing into the ground. My wife did. I drove it into the ground. But we didn't buy and upgrade our car for 10 years. We had a goal. We thought, you know what if we just become millionaires first? We had a business goal and a wealth goal. And it wasn't until that goal was hit that we upgraded. And I can still remember our little car. It had the seats were coming off it. There was oil all over the ground. Like it was time to upgrade, but we didn't do it. We delayed our gratification. Most people can't do that. And there was a test they did with kids to showcase what the number one underlying element was to future success. And it was a fascinating experiment they did. And they did it with marshmallows with kids. They sat these kids in a room. They gave them a marshmallow and they said, we're going to leave the room. If you eat the marshmallow, you don't get a second one. But if you don't eat it, we'll come back and we'll give you a second one. They left the room and all the kids are sitting there like, oh, I'd love to eat this marshmallow. Love to eat it. And then some of the kids couldn't handle it and they went bang and they ate it, right? And then some of the other kids didn't touch it. So when the experimenters came back into the room, they gave the kids who didn't touch it a second marshmallow. And later on, as the kids grew up, the only thing that could determine their future success was their ability to say no to the first marshmallow. That's called delayed gratification. And most people can't play that game. They want to eat the marshmallow straight away. They want to buy the car. They want to get the trip. I mean, they want to get it so bad, they borrow money to do it. They borrow money to get married because they just want it so bad. They want the social validation so badly that they've got to eat that marshmallow straight away. But here's the thing. If you eat the marshmallow first and quickly, you got to pay a marshmallow tax. There's a price to pay for the marshmallow. And that will dictate how successful you are when it comes to your money. So delay your gratification, right? Like what we did with our car. We finally upgraded. We bought a nice Range Rover Sport, paid cash. It was fun. One of the best things we ever bought. And every time I go to that car, I walk to it and I'm just so proud of it because we actually earned it. So now you might be thinking to yourself, well, Lloyd, what's the point in having that extra cash if I can't fly first class? What if I want to buy a Ferrari or a Lambo? What if I like nice clothes? What if I do want to have some status? What if I just want to have the status and attract opportunity? And the reality is you can, but do it later. It's like the cherry on top at the end of the cake. You don't start with the cherry. You bake the cake, you put the icing on, and at the very end of that, you put the cherry on top. So the Ferrari, the first class, that's the cherry you want to put on the top. It's not what you start with, okay? So play the game, but play it at the right time. Which brings me to the next point. Avoid buy now, pay later. You don't want to do buy now, pay later. You want to pay now, buy later, right? Pay now, buy later. It's a wild world out there. Like, it's a dangerous world when it comes to money because people will prey on your psychology. They'll prey on your weaknesses. And so if you're someone that needs to go for the marshmallow quickly and have your cake quickly and eat fast and, not delay any of your gratification, if you're someone that needs to have your thing now, then people or companies like Afterpay, ZipPay, Klarna, they're actually exploiting that weakness in your psychology. So just understand that's a business. They're making money from fees from you when you use this because they know you're weak. And what I would suggest is to build your strength. Say no to things quicker, delay your gratification, and say no to what they're doing to you, which is exploiting you. Because part of the business model they have is to say, well, people want things now and they'll pay later. So they know that. They can see it. And they've built a huge business. The guys that started Afterpay sold that and exited for $60 billion. Like, they knew what they were doing. They're like, oh, people want this. They need this. That doesn't mean you need it, right? So shift your weakness and turn it into a strength. And if you need to do it, delete the apps. Take it away. Move the marshmallow away from yourself so you don't eat it, right? You don't want to delay the tax, okay? So a lot of people are trying to use ZipPay and Afterpay and Klarna and all these buy now, pay later apps. But the problem with that is you're being validated before you've earned it. You're getting the juice before the squeeze. And the idea is to actually delay the juice. Put the squeeze in first. And this is an age-old thing. I mean, my mum used to go to lay-by things when I was a kid, and she would buy the thing for the price in the shop, and then she would pay it off over time. That is delaying the gratification. That's the second marshmallow, right? And all that buy now, pay later does is give you that marshmallow, but you don't pay a tax straight away. You pay it later and later and later. And the reality is, if you do that now with small stuff, it's going to come and haunt you later with big stuff. A lot of people want to have multi-millionaire portfolios. They want to have a multi-million-dollar business. The problem is that if their behavior is ineffective with the small stuff, like if you're putting your peanut butter jar on buy now, pay later, it's going to come and haunt you when you've got a bigger business, let me tell you, right? So your behaviors will follow you around. Wherever you are, there you go, right? And so you've got to change your behavior in the small stuff. The other thing is this: don't borrow to fund expenses. You can borrow money, but don't do it to fund expenses, right? Meaning this, if you borrow to buy something, make sure it's producing income. So you can borrow money to buy a property investment. It's producing income from rent. You can borrow money to buy a business. We recently just bought a business. We knew the income coming in, and we knew that if we borrowed, in fact, we borrowed all the money to acquire this business. We had 100% financing from the bank, and we knew the interest rate, and we knew the repayments, and we knew the business would pull in twice as much as what the repayments would be. So that was a sensible borrowing to buy a business. Same as in a property investment. If it's making more than it's costing in your debt, go for it. But it's when you start borrowing money to buy stuff and things, to buy a boat that's a depreciating asset that takes money for registration, insurance, and upkeep, that's when it starts to work against you. So the worst thing you can do is borrow money and buy depreciating assets that take cash flow from you, right? So you definitely want to avoid borrowing money to go on trips for sure. You want to avoid borrowing money to have a wedding. I had a friend of mine, he borrowed $60,000 to fund a wedding. Now, last time I checked, weddings didn't produce income. Weddings didn't grow in value. Your spouse can grow in value, but the reality is they should have saved the money and then spent it on the wedding. There's time for that. Like, they weren't just going to run away. Like, there's time. You don't need to do stuff now, right? So be careful you don't borrow money to buy things like that that just don't produce income or grow in value unless you've got the cash. But also understand when you deploy the cash, if it's not going to grow, it's not going to give you any back, buy cash. So be very careful about borrowing to fund expenses. So I hope this brutal money advice has helped you. It is brutal. It's so important. Money is a game that you can win, but you can only win if you're brutal with yourself. Because look around, all the adults are gone. There are no adults in this game of money. You're it. The buck stops and starts with you, which means you've got to be brutal to yourself. If you're having these types of conversations in your head saying, you haven't earned this yet, wait till you earn it to get it. You've got to look at your statements, date your money. I don't understand that investment. I better educate myself. I don't have the skills. I better invest in myself before anything else. I'm going to avoid those apps. I'm definitely not going to borrow money to buy things that don't produce income. And this kind of lays the foundations for your money rules. All right, hope you enjoyed the episode. Go hit the subscribe button, but most importantly, leave a comment below of the most brutal money advice you can give. And this month, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and give away one of my books to the most impactful comment. So go ahead, leave us a comment. See you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to Money Grows on Trees. If you enjoyed the episode, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and subscribe to us on YouTube so you never miss an episode. And if you're serious about building wealth, make sure to check out the links in the show notes and follow me on all social media platforms at Lloyd James Ross for more. See you in the next episode.